It's November 12th, 2022, Saturday afternoon, about 2:15, and I'm headed down to do a little walk along the waterfront here in Bass Harbor, Maine on Mount Desert Island. And I'm starting out from a town parking lot, which is right next door to the post office. And this lot is available to park in for free from November 1st through the end of April. In the summer, it's permit parking only, and I think the permit costs about $100. So we're going to start by walking down to the waterfront on McMullen Avenue, which is the first street south of the post office. The one thing about walking in Bass Harbor is, with one exception, we don't have any sidewalks, so if you want to walk in town, you have to walk on the road. Fortunately, we also, at least this time of year, don't have much traffic. So, it's not a problem to walk on the road. And it's a small town. Bass Harbor has a population of around 500. So I'll probably recognize pretty much anyone I might encounter down here. So we'll walk down. It's a little breezy, and I hope that the camera's noise suppression works because I'm using a GoPro Hero 9, and by itself it doesn't have any way to put a shielded microphone on it. So there's the harbor ahead. The gray building down there is the Seafood Catch restaurant, which is closed this time of year. It'll open up again probably in May. And we will be down there in just a second. Well, I am down to the waterfront. I'm right in front of the Seafood Catch restaurant. And this is the lobster boat mooring pool in Bass Harbor. That's Bernard across the way. And we're going to head down the waterfront to the State Ferry Dock. And this is the one area where you can walk right along the waterfront. Okay, I'm out of the sun. This is the old Underwood Cannery, which is now condos. They rebuilt it 10-15 years ago. It's mostly occupied in the summer. There are a few people, not many, who live in here year-round. And most of the condos have a nice water view. Across the street from the condos, we have the Tremont Historical Society Museum, which I believe used to be a store. It has kind of erratic hours, and I don't know what they are right now. And then here we have several small houses that I believe used to be housing for cannery workers originally. And now they're all privately owned, and a couple of them have nice views out over the harbor. Unfortunately, right now we're looking almost straight into the sun. That's Swan's Island in the distance. As we continue up here, we have the third of those small houses, but as you can see, this one has been significantly rebuilt. When I first moved here, that house looked just like this one, and people basically totally rebuilt it into a much nicer home that is set up to take advantage of the view across Bass Harbor out into Blue Hill Bay. And then we have some more condominiums over here. These are all duplexes. And they have, again, a nice view across Bass Harbor and Blue Hill Bay. And great sunsets, because we're looking pretty much west now. And you can see there are a few lobster boats moored out here. Sorry about being straight into the sun. And there is the dock from the cannery that is now part of the condos. And they have a little float there. And if you lived in a condo there, you could get a mooring out here and hop on your boat and head out for a cruise in Blue Hill Bay and beyond very easily. This area right here, the road is a little wider on this side because this is where people park when they're waiting to go onto the ferry over to Swans Island and or Frenchboro. And the ferry goes over to Swans Island several times a day all year, and is basically, unless you own your own boat, the only way to get there. Now I'm going to wait till I'm a little closer to show you the ferry dock, because right now the angle would have us looking straight into the sun. I should have shot this video in the morning, but it was raining this morning. Here's another view. Well, come up here a little more so the trees aren't in the way. There's another view of these condos up here with the sun on them here in the afternoon. You can see they get to watch great sunsets. Now, those condos are mostly owned by summer people. I know 2 people who live in there, and in past years they were the only ones there in the winter. So it's pretty quiet up there in the winter when the summer people have gone home. Now we're almost to the ferry dock. As you can see, this isn't a really long walk. And here the road widens out more to accommodate more cars waiting for the ferry. This time of year, there's no problem getting onto the ferry because there aren't that many people going back and forth to Swans Island. In the summer, Swans Island's population increases by something like a factor of 8 or 9 with people who have summer homes out there. And you actually, if you want to take your car across, would be advised to make a reservation. And that's the ferry office straight ahead. This is part of the main state ferry service. It's not a very big ferry service compared to where I grew up out in Washington State. You could probably put the entire capacity of all the ferries in Maine on one Washington State ferry running out of Seattle. But it's not bad, and we're still straight into the sun to see the ferry dock. So anyway, we'll walk up and take a look out over Blue Hill Bay towards Swans Island, Placentia Island, and although you can't see it from here, Gotts Island. So there are 2 cars waiting to take the next ferry. And there is parking here. This is run by the ferry service. They have 2 lots, one here, one up above, that you can park in if you want to do a walk-on. It's not cheap though. I think the minimum rate is like 10 bucks, which is expensive for parking around here. So I'm going to go in and pick up a ferry schedule. All right, I'm just behind the ferry terminal right now, and I'm going to walk over and have a look and show you the ferry dock where, from an angle where I won't be looking straight into the sun. And we'll walk out there. So there's the Main State Ferry Dock. You can get on the ferry here to go over to Swans Island or to Frenchboro. And I'm thinking that what I might do is later this fall ride the ferry over to Frenchboro and back. That's quite a pretty ride. I've done it on my own boat, but I thought it would be nice to see it this time of year from the state ferry. And of course, if I do that, I'll shoot some video. And there's the view up into Bass Harbor. And another thing, there is a tiny little beach here. It's even got some sand that is on state-owned property, so I guess you can probably go down there. So anyway, let's walk to the end of the public thoroughfare here, and which isn't very far. There is Mainly Delights, which used to be a little seafood restaurant, but it didn't open this year, and I don't know what's going to happen to it. And right down here we have a boat yard. And when I first came here, this yard was called Bass Harbor Marine, but it was a public yard where you could store your boat for the winter. But now, after that, it was purchased by Hinckley Yachts, and they closed it. And because they didn't need the competition, they did use some of the buildings here to store boats, though. And then Morris Yachts bought it. As you can see on a travel lift there, it says Morris Yachts. And they ran this yard for a few years. And then the yard, they closed it, and it was sold to a company that runs fishing boats that go out into the Gulf and Maine and actually fish for fish, not lobsters. And when that happened, the yard became private, and as far as I know, it's currently restricted to just the fishing company's boats. Yeah, so that's the walk out here. And you know, it's kind of a nice day. It's really warm, in the low 60s. However, tomorrow the weather is supposed to cool off for a while, and we'll be looking at daily highs from the upper 30s to the mid 40s, and overnight temperatures down or slightly below freezing. So it's going to be a lot cooler starting tomorrow. I think we can owe this warm air to the remnants of Hurricane Nicole that passed over us last night and this morning. So that is the walk out here to the ferry terminal here in Bass Harbor, along the waterfront on the Bass Harbor side of Bass Harbor. And over there you can see the gravel beach. That is the public beach that I was at just a couple of days ago. So that's my little shore walk today in Bass Harbor, Maine. So hope you enjoyed it. It's been a pleasant walk, although I'm looking straight into the sun for most of my shots of the water. And this is a great place to come and watch the sunset. The only problem is there really isn't any short-term parking out here. Now, you could just pretend to be waiting for the ferry, but they do check on that periodically. Anyway, I did pick up a ferry schedule, So at some point, I think I will pay the $12.50 for the round trip and take the ferry out to Frenchboro and back. As we walk back toward the main part of Bass Harbor. I should say Bass Harbor is, with the exception of the ferry dock, the post office, and that private boatyard out at the end of the dock, and one other small boatyard, pretty much a residential community. There is not a lot of commercial activity here. And that's the way a lot of Mount Desert Island is in the winter. There's not a lot going on once the tourists leave and the tourist-oriented businesses close for the winter. And so we get a nice view of the inner part of Bass Harbor here. And with that, I think I'll end the video. I'll say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't, why don't you consider subscribing to my channel to get more content like this. Thanks for watching.